I am very glad I didn't give a specific day when I would release the new version of the ROM hack, because I got sick on Tuesday, which, as you might be able to imagine, had a significant negative impact on the amount of work I got done. But that aside, I've had a whole devlog dedicated to Anna already, and another segment on her in the last week's one, but I don't want to make it seem like there is any favoritism going on here. My goal is to have every character receive that level of detail with a number of unique interactions and ways to affect the story. Will I succeed? Probably not for all of them, but there is one I think will work out just fine. So for this week's devlog will be... Francis is a priest who you can recruit in chapter 2 with one of 3 characters. Either Edwin, who is originally from this area and as such knows Francis personally, though they haven't seen each other in years, or Guildmaster Valerie, who, as a leader of this group of adventurers, would be quite interested in recruiting a healer into their ranks, or Taimi, mainly because she is the most mobile of your units, being the only flyer you have, and it would be a sound tactic to send her over to rescue Francis and bring him to safety, so you might as well recruit him while you're there. But it also makes sense in terms of characterization, as Taimi idolizes Valerie and will do the things that she believes the Guildmaster would do. And keeping with this ROM hack's theme of attaching consequences, even if only minor ones, to everything possible, things will go slightly differently depending on who recruits him. Specifically, his support conversations with the person who recruited him change compared to what they are by default. For example, if recruited by Valerie, in the recruitment conversation, the topic of compensating him for his work will be brought up. And then, in the support conversation between the two, that topic will be revisited, and Francis will indeed receive compensation. That is, if he actually did a good amount of work as a healer. And how much work he did will be judged by the increase in his staff experience rank. If Edwin recruits Francis, they also get a head start on their support level, though you can still obtain that bonus after recruiting him with another character, as the two will be able to have a chat in this chapter, discovering that they ended up in the same army. And I brought up support conversations not just to mention these changes in them, but also because it makes for a convenient transition to... Francis is a priest, yes, both in gameplay and in story, but he's also meant to be a skilled herbalist, and I wanted that to be present both in gameplay and in story. The way I decided to go about it was using supports. Whenever Francis triggers a support conversation with someone, he ends it by gifting them a potion he just made. And because he makes them from what he could find in the local area, the type of the potion received depends on the chapter in which the conversation happens. Coming up with interesting ideas for potions that I would actually know how to implement mechanically within the limited scope of a modified Fire Emblem 8 engine was tough, but in the end I figured out 5 effects that I needed. Those being: 1. Fortification. The lowest statistic of the character is increased by 3, patching up their greatest weakness, whether that is complete lack of defense or resistance, luck so low that regular enemies have a crit chance against the character, or dealing damage equivalent to slapping someone with a pool noodle. 2. Escape, exactly what it says on the tin, takes the character out of the battlefield. A situational tool that might save a character's life if things get bad, though of course if your last unit leaves them up, that is a game over. 3. Knowledge. A slightly boring one admittedly. This effect just gives you a level up. Boring, but useful, as proven by rare candy in Pokémon. 4. Iron Flesh. A huge boost to the character's physical defense that decays over time. And lastly, AoE Heal, which is a self-descriptive effect. Considering the fact that you can get up to 5 support conversations, and can in theory get all of them in a single chapter, I had to ensure that none of the potions would be too overpowered if you got 5 of them. Though I'm really not sure how getting a total of plus 15 points spread across the character's lowest stats affects them in terms of balance, so fortification might end up being a slight issue. There is also a third side to Francis' character. He is a healer of body and soul, but sometimes the best method of healing is to prevent the wound in the first place. And he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. Well, He is afraid, but he'll do it anyway. He even has a unique stuff called Decay, which poisons enemies, allowing him to attack as a normally support-only class, even if it is a poor method of attacking. This militant side of him is the reason why, when seeking a solution for balancing the promotion choices of a priest, I eventually settled on replacing Sage with a warmonk. And the idea to have this militant priest has also influenced my world building. Francis didn't just wake up one day and choose violence, he was inspired by Sanctians, an ancient holy order which, if you've been paying close attention, was brought up in the conversations at the start of this chapter. As a side note, the name Sanctians is derived from sanctify, as I wanted a name with the same feel as Templars or Crusaders, but without the historical baggage that they carry. They were holy warriors who came together when the world was threatened by a great crisis. They built fortified temples and sheltered within them everyone who sought out the sanctuary. They battled, and they healed, and they played a considerable role in resolving that crisis. And they continued their work for years afterwards. They became a powerful organization, but as the old members of the order passed, new ones took their place, and many of them joined seeking the power and prestige of the title, rather than wishing to give their all to help those in need. And that pursuit of power in time corrupted the order, its goals changing, and a century of heroism and altruism was tainted by a decade of greed and oppression. I like how the GBA games touch on religion, and I wanted my game to do it in a similar way. It's never a main focus, but it is a part of the world, and it comes up whenever relevant. And when it does come up, it's not the boring church bat trope, nor is it treated like the absolute good and the only correct way to live. Whether it's the Elimin Church in Fire Emblem 6 and 7, or the theocracy of Rosten in Fire Emblem 8, you have people who are evil, greedy or power-hungry. You have paragons of virtue, but mostly you have just people. Normal, decent people who, whether they are selfless or self-absorbed, have chosen this path in life and try to do good, their flaws sometimes getting in the way. I don't know how to end this devlog, and I'm still writing this script at the time when I usually already had the audio ready to go. Usually, in case of these devlogs, already ended with me uploading the videos at an unhealthily late hour. So thanks for watching, I'll be back next week, farewell.